I stared at my reflection in the elevator doors, adjusting the collar of my blazer one last time. Eleanor Bennett, Senior Graphic Designer at Apex Creative Solutions. The title still felt new on my tongue, even after 3 months. At 32, I'd worked my way up in the industry, building a portfolio I was genuinely proud of. Boston's skyline stretched out behind me through the glass windows of the high-rise, the morning sun glinting off the Charles River in the distance. The elevator dinged, and I stepped into the sleek office of Apex, nodding to the receptionist as I made my way to my desk. Our open floor plan was already buzzing with activity. Designers hunched over tablets, account managers on calls, the familiar symphony of a Tuesday morning. "Morning, Ellie," said Tara from the desk across from mine. She was already sipping her third coffee of the day, her curly hair pulled back in a messy bun. "Ready for the Henderson pitch?" "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied, setting down my bag and powering up my computer. The Henderson account was my first major project since being promoted, and I'd spent weeks perfecting the campaign. It wasn't just about proving myself worthy of the promotion. It was about showing what I could really do when given the chance. The morning flew by in a blur of emails and last-minute adjustments to my presentation. At 11:30, I gathered my materials and headed to the conference room. I spotted my boss, Richard Caldwell, already seated at the head of the table. He'd been at Apex for nearly 20 years and had a reputation for being brilliant but brutally honest. "Eleanor," he nodded as I entered. "Let's see what you've got for Henderson." I connected my laptop to the projector and began my presentation. The campaign I'd designed centered around sustainable packaging, highlighting Henderson Organics' commitment to reducing plastic waste. I'd created a series of bold, nature-inspired visuals that told a story of environmental responsibility without feeling preachy or cliché. As I clicked through my slides, I could feel the energy in the room shift. People were leaning forward, engaged. Even Richard's perpetual frown had softened slightly. When I finished, there was a moment of silence before the room erupted in applause. "This is excellent work," said Melissa from marketing. "The Henderson people are going to love it." Richard cleared his throat. "It's solid. A few tweaks needed on the color palette for the digital ads, but otherwise, good job." Coming from Richard, that was practically a standing ovation. I felt a wave of pride wash over me as I packed up my materials. This was why I'd worked so hard to get here. After the meeting, I returned to my desk, riding the high of a successful presentation. I was answering emails when a notification popped up, a calendar invite for a 3 p.m. meeting with Richard in his office. No agenda, no explanation. My stomach tightened. Surprise meetings with the boss were rarely good news. For the next 2 hours, I tried to focus on my work, but my mind kept wandering to the meeting. Had I missed something in the presentation? Was there feedback he didn't want to give in front of everyone? At 2:55, I stood up, smoothed my skirt, and made my way to Richard's corner office. His door was ajar, and I could see him on the phone, gesturing emphatically. I knocked lightly on the door frame. "Come in," he said, hanging up. "Close the door behind you." I sat in the chair across from his desk, noting the family photos arranged neatly on the bookshelf behind him. His wife and 2 teenage sons on a ski trip, a golden retriever with a tennis ball. "Your Henderson presentation was good," he started, leaning back in his chair. "The client will be happy." "Thank you," I said, waiting for the but that was surely coming. "Look, Eleanor," he continued, folding his hands on the desk. "I've been meaning to have a conversation with you about your position here." My pulse quickened. "Is there a problem with my work?" "Not exactly," he said, looking uncomfortable for the first time. "You're talented, no question, but I think it's important that you understand the circumstances of your promotion." "Circumstances?" I repeated, my voice steady despite the alarm bells ringing in my head. Richard sighed, as if explaining something obvious to a child. "The board has been pushing for more diversity in senior positions. The company needed to fill certain quotas, and your promotion helped meet those goals." The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd spent years honing my skills, staying late, taking on extra projects. I'd beaten out 5 other candidates for this position, and now he was suggesting it was all because I checked a box as a woman? "Are you saying I didn't earn my promotion?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm saying there were other factors involved, he replied, not quite meeting my eyes. Your work is fine, but there were candidates with more experience. The diversity initiative tipped the scales in your favor. I felt heat rising to my face, anger and humiliation warring inside me. I've been in this industry for 10 years. My portfolio speaks for itself. No one's questioning your abilities, Richard said dismissively. I just thought you should know the full picture. It'll help you understand the expectations and perhaps temper your ambitions accordingly. Temper my ambitions. The phrase echoed in my head as I sat there, speechless. Was he actually suggesting I should aim lower because I supposedly hadn't earned my current position? Is that all? I managed to ask, desperate to escape his office before I said something I'd regret. That's all, he confirmed, already turning back to his computer. The Henderson revisions should be ready by Friday. I stood up, my legs unsteady, and walked out of his office. The busy office floor seemed distant, as if I was watching it through a fog. I made it back to my desk and sat down, staring blankly at my screen. Tara glanced over. Everything okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Fine, I said automatically. Just a lot to process from the meeting. As the afternoon wore on, Richard's words played on a loop in my head. A diversity quota. Not because of my talent or hard work, but because the company needed more women in senior roles. The worst part was that I'd heard rumors about this happening to other women, but I never thought it would happen to me. I never thought my boss would actually say it to my face. By 5 p.m., the initial shock had given way to simmering anger. I stayed late, long after most of my colleagues had gone home. In the quiet of the nearly empty office, I opened my portfolio, the comprehensive collection of every project I'd ever worked on. Award-winning campaigns, successful rebrands, client testimonials. This was my real resume. This was why I deserved my position, quota or no quota. And I knew exactly what I needed to do with it. The next morning, I arrived at the office earlier than usual. The floor was quiet, most desks still empty. I needed this time to think, to plan my next move carefully. I opened my email and began drafting a message to Apex's legal department. I had never met Catherine Walsh, the head of legal, but I knew of her reputation. Tough, fair, and not someone who tolerated nonsense. My hands hovered over the keyboard as I considered my words carefully. Subject: discriminatory remarks and potential Title VII violation. I wrote a brief, factual account of my meeting with Richard, making sure to quote his words exactly as I remembered them. I attached my complete portfolio, along with performance reviews from my previous positions and the official job posting for the senior graphic designer role, which clearly listed qualifications that I met or exceeded. I ended the email with, I am not looking to create problems, but I believe these comments constitute workplace discrimination and undermine my professional standing at Apex. I would appreciate your guidance on how to proceed. My finger hovered over the send button. Was I overreacting? Would this torpedo my career at Apex, or worse, in the industry as a whole? But then I remembered Richard's condescending tone, the casual way he had dismissed years of my hard work. I hit send. Within an hour, I received a response from Catherine's assistant, scheduling a meeting for 2 p.m. that day. The swift response surprised me and made my stomach churn with a mixture of vindication and anxiety. I tried to focus on work throughout the morning, making the revisions Richard had requested for the Henderson campaign. I passed him in the hallway once, and he nodded curtly, oblivious to the fact that I had just reported him to legal. At lunch, I couldn't eat. Instead, I went for a walk around the block, the crisp autumn air clearing my head. Boston's financial district bustled around me, professionals rushing between meetings, food trucks serving the lunch crowd, tourists staring up at the skyscrapers. I found myself wondering how many other women had been in my position, told that their achievements were just the result of a quota. At exactly 2 p.m., I knocked on the door to the legal department on the 15th floor. Catherine Walsh opened it herself, extending her hand. She was shorter than I expected, with sharp blue eyes and silver-streaked dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. "Eleanor, thank you for coming," she said, guiding me to a small conference room rather than her office. "I've asked Jacob from HR to join us, if that's all right with you." Jacob Chen was already seated at the table, a folder open in front of him. He smiled reassuringly as I sat down. "First, I want to thank you for bringing this to our attention," Catherine began. "We take these matters very seriously at Apex." "I wasn't sure if I should say anything," I admitted. "But I couldn't just pretend it didn't happen." "You absolutely did the right thing," Jacob said firmly. "What Mr. Caldwell suggested to you goes against company policy and potentially violates employment law." Catherine nodded. "I've reviewed your portfolio, Eleanor. It's exceptional work. The Greenfield campaign alone would qualify you for your current position." Her validation brought an unexpected lump to my throat. "Thank you. Can you walk us through exactly what happened in the meeting?" Catherine asked, taking out a notepad. I recounted the conversation as precisely as I could remember, including Richard's suggestion that I should temper my ambitions. Jacob frowned as he took notes. "And this was a private meeting? No one else was present?" "Just the two of us," I confirmed. "But he didn't ask me to keep the conversation confidential." Catherine and Jacob exchanged a glance. "We'll need to speak with Mr. Caldwell, of course," Catherine said. "But I want you to know that your promotion was based entirely on merit. I was actually on the hiring committee." This was news to me. "You were?" "Yes. We reviewed all candidates anonymously at first. No names, no identifying information. Your portfolio and interview responses ranked highest. The diversity initiative had nothing to do with the final decision." I felt a wave of relief wash over me, followed quickly by renewed anger at Richard. He had lied to me, deliberately undermining my confidence and professional standing. "What happens now?" I asked. "We'll conduct a formal investigation," Jacob explained. "In the meantime, would you be comfortable continuing to report to Mr. Caldwell, or would you prefer a temporary reporting structure change?" I considered this. Part of me wanted to avoid Richard entirely, but another part didn't want to disrupt my work or appear as though I was running away from the situation. "I can continue reporting to him for now," I decided, "as long as he behaves professionally." "We'll ensure that he does," Catherine said, her tone leaving no room for doubt. "And Eleanor, this won't negatively impact your career at Apex. Quite the opposite. We value employees who uphold our standards and speak up when something isn't right." As I left the meeting, I felt lighter than I had in days. The truth was out, and I had advocates in my corner. But I also knew that this was just the beginning. Word would get out. It always did in office environments, and I would have to navigate the fallout. Back at my desk, I threw myself into work, staying late to finish the Henderson revisions. The office had mostly emptied when I heard footsteps approaching. I looked up to see Melissa from marketing standing by my desk, hesitation clear on her face. "Is it true?" she asked quietly. "About Richard?" News traveled fast. "What have you heard?" "That he told you your promotion was just to fill a quota and you reported him to legal." She sat on the edge of my desk. "The design team is talking about it." I sighed. "Yes, it's true. How did word get out so quickly?" "Jacob from HR was seen coming out of a tense meeting with Richard this afternoon. People connected the dots." She paused. "For what it's worth, everyone knows you deserve your position. Your work speaks for itself." "Thanks, Melissa. That means a lot." She smiled. "Some of us are going for drinks at Morton's. You should join us." I hesitated, then nodded. "I'd like that." That evening, surrounded by colleagues who treated me no differently than before, I realized something important. I wasn't alone in this fight. And for the first time since my meeting with Richard, I felt like I might actually come out of this stronger than before. The next week passed in a strange limbo. Richard was conspicuously absent for 3 days, and when he returned, he was unusually subdued. Our interactions were strictly professional, focused entirely on work matters. No mention was made of our previous conversation or my meeting with legal. The office grapevine, however, was working overtime. I caught snippets of conversations that stopped when I approached, noticed the occasional sympathetic glance, and received supportive messages from colleagues I barely knew. It was unsettling to be the subject of office gossip, even if most people seemed to be on my side. On Friday afternoon, I received an email from Catherine Walsh requesting a meeting on Monday morning. My stomach knotted as I read it. What had the investigation found? Would there be consequences for Richard? For me? The weekend passed in a blur of anxiety and preparation. I reviewed my portfolio again, reminding myself of my accomplishments and worth. I went for long runs along the Charles River, trying to clear my head. And I called my older sister, Diana, the only person outside of work I'd told about the situation. "Whatever happens, you stood up for yourself," she reminded me. That counts for something. Monday morning arrived with a gray drizzle that matched my mood. I dressed carefully in my most professional outfit, a navy pantsuit and minimal jewelry, armor for the battle ahead. At 9 a.m. sharp, I knocked on Catherine's door. This time, she ushered me into her actual office, a corner space with large windows overlooking the city. Jacob from HR was already there, along with a woman I didn't recognize. "Eleanor, this is Patricia Alvarez, our Chief Operating Officer," Catherine introduced us. I tried not to show my surprise. The COO's involvement suggested this was being taken even more seriously than I'd thought. "Thank you for coming in," Patricia said, gesturing for me to sit. "I want to start by apologizing on behalf of Apex for what you experienced. We've completed our investigation," Catherine continued. "After speaking with Mr. Caldwell and reviewing all relevant documentation, we've determined that his comments to you were inappropriate and misrepresented the hiring process." Jacob handed me a document. "This is the official finding. As Catherine told you in our first meeting, your promotion was based entirely on merit. The hiring committee's notes confirm that you were the top candidate based on your portfolio, experience, and interview performance." I skimmed the document, relief washing over me. "Thank you for taking this seriously." "We always do," Patricia said firmly. "Apex has a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination of any kind, which brings us to the next steps." My heart rate picked up. "Next steps?" Catherine and Patricia exchanged glances before Catherine spoke. "Mr. Caldwell has been issued a formal reprimand, and he'll be required to complete additional management and diversity training." I nodded, absorbing this. It seemed reasonable, though part of me had hoped for more serious consequences. "Additionally," Patricia continued, "we've decided to restructure the creative department. Effective immediately, you'll be reporting directly to me instead of Mr. Caldwell." This was unexpected. "I appreciate that, but I don't want special treatment. I just wanted the truth acknowledged." "This isn't special treatment," Patricia assured me. "We've been planning to split the department for some time due to its growth. You'll be heading the digital design team, while Richard will continue to oversee print and brand identity." My mind raced. This was essentially a promotion. More responsibility, more visibility, and direct reporting to the C-suite. "Are you sure I'm ready for that?" Catherine smiled. "Your portfolio suggests you've been ready for some time. And your handling of this situation demonstrates the kind of integrity and professionalism we value in leadership." I left the meeting with a mix of emotions I couldn't quite sort through. Victory, yes, but also apprehension about the new role and the inevitable office politics that would follow. Back at my desk, I found a small potted succulent with a note. "Tough plants for tough times. Congrats on the new role. Tara." Word traveled fast indeed. Later that afternoon, I was called into a department-wide meeting. Patricia announced the restructuring, presenting it as a strategic business decision with no mention of the incident with Richard. Richard himself stood at the back of the room, his expression unreadable as Patricia detailed the new reporting structure. After the meeting, I was gathering my notes when Richard approached me. The room had mostly emptied, leaving us in an uncomfortable semi-privacy. "Congratulations on the new role," he said stiffly. "Thank you," I replied, unsure what else to say. He hesitated, then added, "I've been asked to apologize for my comments about your promotion. They were inappropriate and incorrect." It was clearly a rehearsed apology, probably drafted by HR, but I appreciated the effort nonetheless. "I accept your apology," I said. "I hope we can work together professionally moving forward." He nodded curtly and walked away. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a start. That evening, as I packed up my things to move to my new office the next day, Melissa stopped by my desk. "We're celebrating at Morton's tonight. The whole team's coming, even some of the print designers. You have to be there." "I don't know, Melissa. It might be awkward with everything that's happened." "That's exactly why you need to come." Show everyone you're not backing down or hiding away. She grinned. Besides, it's not every day someone takes on Richard Caldwell and wins. I couldn't help but smile. When you put it that way, how can I refuse? The bar was crowded when I arrived, but I spotted my colleagues in the back corner, already a round in. They cheered when they saw me, raising their glasses in a toast. To Eleanor, Tara called out, who reminded us all that standing up for yourself isn't just right, it's good career strategy. Laughter and applause followed as I took my seat, warmth spreading through me that had nothing to do with the wine someone pressed into my hand. For the first time since this all began, I felt completely certain that I had done the right thing. 6 months later, I stood in front of a room full of aspiring designers at the Boston Design Conference, sharing my journey and the lessons I'd learned along the way. I'd been invited to speak about leading creative teams, but I couldn't tell that story without touching on the challenges I'd faced. Your portfolio is your power, I told them, scanning the audience of eager faces. It's the tangible proof of your abilities, your growth, and your worth. No one can take that away from you. Not a difficult boss, not office politics, not self-doubt. The digital design team at Apex had flourished under my leadership. We'd landed 3 major new accounts, including a high-profile tech startup that had specifically requested to work with my team after seeing the Henderson campaign. The restructuring that had initially seemed like a response to my situation had indeed been beneficial for the company as a whole. Richard and I maintained a professional relationship. It wasn't warm, but it was respectful. He had completed his required training and, according to Tara, who still reported to him, had become noticeably more careful in his management approach. The hardest part wasn't standing up to my boss, I continued, answering a question from the audience. It was trusting that my work would speak for itself. We often internalize other people's assessments of our value, especially when they come from authority figures. Learning to challenge that was the real growth. After the conference, I met Catherine Walsh for coffee. We'd developed a mentor relationship over the past months, with her providing guidance as I navigated my new leadership role. Your speech was excellent, she said, as we settled at a corner table in the cafe. Honest without being bitter. I worried it might be too personal, I admitted, but it felt important to share. It was. More people need to hear these stories. She stirred her coffee thoughtfully. The board is considering you for the creative director position when James retires next year. I nearly choked on my latte. Creative director? That's 2 levels up from where I am now. And well-deserved based on your performance. She smiled. Your team has the highest client satisfaction ratings in the company, and your retention of designers is exceptional. What about Richard? Wouldn't he be the obvious choice? Richard is talented, but leadership is more than technical skill. It's about bringing out the best in others, standing firm in difficult situations, and having a vision for the future. She fixed me with her sharp blue gaze. You've demonstrated all 3. As I walked back to the office, the spring sunshine warm on my face, I reflected on how much had changed in half a year. I thought about the woman I had been, sitting in Richard's office, hearing that my achievements were nothing more than the result of a quota. How small I had felt in that moment, and how close I had come to believing him. Instead, I had chosen to trust in myself and my work. I had sent my portfolio to legal not just to defend my position, but to assert my worth. And in doing so, I had changed not only my own trajectory, but potentially the culture at Apex itself. Back at my desk, I opened my portfolio, still meticulously updated with each new project, and added notes from the conference presentation. Another accomplishment, another piece of evidence of my growth and capability. My phone buzzed with a text from Diana. How'd the speech go? Great, I replied. Turns out my story resonates with a lot of people. Not surprising, she texted back. Standing up for yourself never goes out of style. I smiled, thinking of all the women and men in that audience who might face similar situations in their careers. Maybe my story would give them the courage to trust in their work, to refuse to be diminished, to send their portfolios to legal if necessary. The following week, we presented the completed Henderson campaign to the client. They were thrilled with the results, particularly the digital components my team had developed. As we wrapped up the presentation, the CEO of Henderson Organics approached me. "I heard you're the one who conceptualized the sustainable packaging angle," she said. "It's transformed how our customers see our brand." "Thank you," I replied. It was a team effort, but yes, that was my initial concept. "Well, it's brilliant work. We'd like to expand the campaign globally next quarter, and we specifically want your team on it." As we discussed the details of the expanded project, I caught sight of Richard across the room, watching our conversation. He nodded slightly, a gesture that might have been respect or simply acknowledgement. Either way, it didn't matter like it once would have. I had proven my worth, to the company, to my colleagues, and most importantly, to myself. My portfolio had spoken louder than any dismissive words ever could. That evening, as I walked home along the Charles River, I thought about all the portfolios being built right now, all the careers taking shape, all the talents waiting to be recognized. I couldn't change the system overnight, but I had made one small corner of it more just, more meritocratic. And sometimes that's enough to start a change that reaches far beyond one person or one company. Sometimes, standing up for yourself means standing up for everyone who might come after you. My phone buzzed with an email, the official announcement of my nomination for the creative director position, pending board approval. I smiled, slipping the phone back into my pocket without responding yet. Tomorrow would be time enough for that. For now, I just wanted to enjoy the sunset over Boston, the city that had seen me falter and then rise stronger than before. The city where I had learned that my portfolio, my work, my talent, my dedication, was all the proof I needed of my right to be exactly where I was.